run prior, so like at the default window where you haven't yet chose your test program, it is not maintaining a baseline for temperature for the subject. So you don't want to put it onto your subject until you've selected the test and actually entered test, at which point it starts to maintain baseline. You can always see it in the upper right. And otherwise the subject is going to have it get really cold at times if the system goes to resting. So just like for your subject not to have it suddenly change, put it in there. But then as soon as you do know it's on your subject, you have to be really careful and make sure that you don't accidentally give a stimulus. And also let the subjects know, one of the things that's really important when you're like preparing the subject is that they should always know when the stimuli are coming up. Obviously it should be within the context of your experimental run. If at any point, so like when you're doing the consent and stuff, you have to let them know, like occasionally there are malfunctions, and if at any point you feel a stimulus and it's either too hot, which has happened, so this system is set to, if it needs to turn off, if there's a lapse in communication, the way it triggers its turn-off mechanism is it goes up to 53, at which point there's an automatic shut-off and the system turns off. So what that happens for the subject is that is above the point that anybody can handle, and then furthermore it shuts off and goes to painfully cold. So it's a really bad sort of combination. It's like, I don't know about the stupid engineering of that, but you have to let the subject know if at any point it's way hotter, they can go ahead and take it off even if they're in the MRI environment. And then also that all stimuli should happen within the context of the experiment, and that if they feel anything that's out of the range, they should let you know. In our studies, it's super important to give people the squeeze ball and to let them know. In some studies, people actually use a squeeze ball for communication. But in our studies, I think it's pretty critical to use it strictly as a form of emergency contact, because that way you know if you hear it, it's something wrong. And you run in there as fast as you can, you get the thermode off the subject. So basically, prepare your subjects for that, let them know it is a possibility and that they should feel comfortable taking it off right away and letting you know. I think we have maybe had one person like take it off at a point that like they shouldn't have or whatever, but I mean, that's kind of worth the risk, given that the other times it shoots up and people can tell you something just happened that wasn't right. So that's pretty important. I think it's like a really different sort of situation from running people downtown, because here you are divided from your subjects by this whole room and you're giving them these stimuli. And so it's important also to always be watching the screen. So usually we have one person kind of like in charge of keeping an eye on the stimuli and making sure that nothing shoots up, because you do see it happen on here. And so sometimes like we've seen it start to drop and run in there, and that can be helpful. And yeah, so don't let anybody like obstruct your view if you're sitting over there. Watch your stimuli. So let's go in, are there